Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are continuing our back to school season. It's actually our last back to school episode. It's the last weekend of August.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Next weekend is September because then it's Labor Day.
You know, that's right. That feels correct. Wow. I guess I just didn't know where the last day of August fell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it falls in the middle of next week. It's Hump Day next week.
Gotcha. That's why I was like, it doesn't feel like we should be done yet. But here we are.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention to the calendar.
It's one of those awkward endpoints, kind of. If I'm not mistaken, I get 3 pay periods next month.
I mean, possibly. I got 3 in July.
Okay. But the point is, it's back to school month, and it's winding down. Once you hit Labor Day, you're definitely at, everyone is back in school.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
And so, I mean, Labor Day is also, the start of college football season. And so that's kind of, definitely, or at least it was for me, because that's always when LSU's opening game was. And so it's definitely wrapping up back to school season right around now.
Yeah.
And so all month long we've been going through and we've observed sort of the different types of characters that you see in school through film. Mm-hmm. And so we started with teachers, and of course we did kind of 2 different types of teacher, right?
Well, 2 different types of the same type of teacher.
Yeah, they both sort of did a stand and deliver, but one was legitimately well prepared to be a teacher, and the other
was winging it.
Was a fraud, and then we did jocks and cheerleaders with Friday Night Lights and Bring It On.
Mm-hmm. Great time. Incredible
time. Really, really satisfied revisiting Friday Night Lights, the movie, after all these years. I think it's maybe too late now, but once upon a time we probably could have done a real crack-up documentary on that story.
I mean, I'm sure that technically you can still do a documentary of that kind of story. Just pick a place.
That's true.
I don't think that thing is so far away from the normal than than it actually is. I think that that's probably the baseline.
Consider this an official pitch. If you're interested, call me.
My number is 555.
And so, the email, filmbudspodcast.
Exactly.
Email me.
Exactly. You know what? I was making a joke. You made it serious. Actually contact us.
And so, then we moved on into outcast figures with Carrie and Dazed and Confused, because Mitch is ultimately, even though he plays baseball, he is an odd duck figure.
Well, honestly, if we're really counting, apples and oranges over here of sports,
yeah,
baseball is not cool,
especially in football country.
Yeah.
So,
football took baseball's whole thing and kicked it out. That's what happened.
And so, and of course, Carrie is an ultimate outcast figure story. Mm-hmm. It's all about the pain of being the bullied, of being the center point of people otherizing someone.
Mm-hmm. This lightning rod.
Exactly. Of torment.
No, honestly, yeah.
And so then we decided that we would close out the month with one of our last major stereotypes, nerds and overachievers.
Yep.
And nerd and overachiever, I think, can mean a lot of things. I think that sometimes people think nerd means good grades. or nerd might mean, sort of soft-spoken in some sort of way. But I think, or overachiever might even mean that you excel academically. But I think that all of these are, loose terms. I think that you can have nerds. Eddie Munson, for example, in Stranger Things Season 4, was a bit of a nerd figure. He was a dungeon master, but he was also the sort of grungy drug lord figure.
Okay, well, I guess my question is, what is the difference for you of a nerd versus a geek?
Okay, I think a lot of people use them interchangeably. Mm-hmm. I think that that's an acceptable answer. I think if you were going to pinpoint what's the difference between a nerd and a geek, is I think you can have a nerd still have gumption, and I think a geek is a doormat.
Oh, okay, that's definitely a new one for me. Okay, fascinating.
Almost leaning into sort of the circus dumb term of a geek.
Well, I guess I made this definition, my mental definition of these words before I knew that phrase was used thusly.
No, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that people were called geeks in the circus until we watched
Nightmare Alley
at Christmas time of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Great time. First time back in theaters in a long time.
No, yeah, that's very true. But, that does not sway my opinion of what a geek versus a nerd is.
Lay down, go forth.
Well, so, okay, I would think that, Eddie would be more of a geek than a nerd. I think that nerds... Oh,
interesting.
I think that for me, a nerd means that you fit right into the, straight A kid, overachiever in, every academic sense, completely helpless when it comes to defending themselves, has the tortoise shell of a backpack full of books that are way above their caliber. Hermione Granger is a nerd.
Oh, okay.
For me. Whereas, a geek is just Ron. Because Ron isn't good at anything, but he also doesn't fit in.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're not cool, but you're not smart.
I guess for me, I almost put Hermione as a nerd, Neville as a geek. Early Neville.
Oh, okay.
Not later Neville. Later Neville is a rebel.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared for that. You're so right, though.
And so
I guess... He's pushing it.
Exactly. He's actively antagonizing his terrorist professors,
Well, I think that there are levels of all of these things, but I think that Neville is also a geek. I think that they're all geeks.
That's fair.
I think that Hermione is a nerd.
That's fair.
She's the one that gets picked on by the geeks.
I guess I also thought that on a certain level Spock was a nerd.
Well, I think that that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that there's a level of, ownership with nerddom.
Ah, you can be a nerd of authority.
Exactly.
You can be a geek of authority.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be Eddie Munson, a geek of authority.
Exactly.
Ron, a geek of no authority.
Exactly. It really depends on, but also, there's a lot of, I think that, nerds take a lot of pride in the things that they know.
Fastidiousness in their habits.
Exactly.
And maybe that's what I was pointing toward with, a sense of authority more than a geek.
Okay.
Is that focus.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that that's totally fair. No, I was really curious about your definition because I wanted to understand these terms through your eyes a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you for this.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you asked because it was a great question. And
I think that it is something that has a lot of
denotation and connotation that are regionally based and experience based.
Exactly,
as well.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
A Midwesterner might have a totally different opinion
No,
on
yeah.
nerd and geek. Soda and pop kind
Exactly.
of a thing.
Exactly.
No, that was actually fascinating. And I guess actually on that note, we did already touch on a few. Do you have any other famous nerds or overachievers?
Well, yeah,
from
I've already,
film and television.
I've already said like my top one, which is like Hermione
You can check out our
Granger.
election episode,
Oh,
which is all about an overachiever.
Very true. You know what? I think that character is very solidly like what I would consider like a nerd. You know, or
yeah.
You know, solidly because like
She hits the double whammy of nerd overachiever. You
Yeah.
know, she's sort of whom both.
no, for sure, and I think that they can be like lumped together. You know, you can be, I guess, a geek overachiever of a sorts.
But like Rachel Warsham, who we knew in school, was an overachiever,
Yes.
but not necessarily a geek or a nerd in any kind of sense.
No, but you know,
She was a type A.
that's completely fair, and I'm just not.
But she was a full-blooded type A.
No, yeah. Another thing that I didn't know totally dipped into my childhood, and I had no idea what that phrase meant. It's literally a lyric in a Hercules song. Is, you know, being type A.
Yeah.
Let's see, another.
Milo Thatch, nerd.
Yes, for sure. Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Ah, man, I am, like, struggling over here. I said one just, like, so absentmindedly, and now you've, like, given me assignments.
George McFly, geek.
Yes. I think that, oh, yeah. His, oh.
Pops, yeah.
That man.
That's a geek.
What's his name?
The actor?
Yeah, the guy who plays him.
Crispin Glover.
That's right. I knew he had a weird name. Bruce Banner is a nerd.
That's fair.
He's not like an overachiever of any sorts. He's just incredibly smart. Whereas, like, I don't think that Tony Stark is a nerd.
No.
At the end of the day, he's got too much effortlessness to it. You know, he's not working really hard to be the smartest person in the room. He just is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing is he has the the other thing is, of course, the introvert extrovert duality of intelligence.
Oh no, I think that's totally fair. And there are also very stereotypes that fluctuate throughout the, you know, the cinema landscape of the fact of, like, very specifically, like, these are the things that you expect from X category. And
absolutely.
I feel like most people do categorize, like, nerds as introverted, you know, small people, because then all of the extroverted energy is usually portrayed with their bully.
Yeah, exactly. So for today's episode, we decided to, of course, focus. We didn't really do, I guess, a bully-centric episode. Bullies are in a lot of our episodes.
Well, yeah, but let's not promote bad behavior.
That's right. And so instead we decided to go down a different route, and we decided to focus on an academic overachiever and a very different kind of nerd, but a nerd nonetheless.
No, for sure, yeah.
And so in today's episode, we're doing Rushmore, Wes Anderson's film from 1998, and Brick, Rian Johnson's film from 2005. Before we get going, though, I did decide that we would do, instead of history background the way that we typically do, I thought that I would do a little bit of a director profile on Wes Anderson, very brief. Mm-hmm. So, Wes Anderson was born May 1st, 1969 in Houston, Texas. He is known as a producer, writer, and director, and the number of films that he has overseen as a writer-director are 10.
Okay.
He's right where Quentin wants to retire. So...
What a fucking luxury.
But Wes has no signs of retiring, and for a little bit of background on Wes Anderson, if you didn't know, he was born Wesley Wales Anderson.
That's a lot of W, guys.
The middle child of 3 boys, born and raised in Texas. His mother, Texas Ann, was an archaeologist turned realtor.
Wait a minute.
I'm not fucking around.
Her name?
Her name is Texas Ann Burroughs, then Anderson.
And she lives in the state of Texas?
Yes.
Oh gosh, this is my niece.
Virginia, who lives in Virginia.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, did Dakota Fanning ever live in a Dakota?
I don't believe so.
Oh, missed opportunities.
So, his father, Melver Leonard, was in advertising and PR. He and his brothers grew up well educated, with Wes attending St. John's Prep School in Houston.
Oh, well, that's how he knew how to write a prep school.
At a young age, his parents divorced. A moment that Wes considers a profound change point for him.
Interesting.
After school, he attended UT to study philosophy. And in 1989, he met Owen and then eventually Luke Wilson, with whom he would collaborate to make Bottle Rocket.
Interesting.
And the rest, as they say from there, cinematically at least speaking, is history. He would go on to make Bottle Rocket, and then that short would get the attention of a producer who would say, make it a feature. And that leads us literally right to the doorstep of Rushmore.
Fascinating. Honestly, just listening to his very brief biography, definitely can hear a lot of Wes isms just sprinkled throughout. I never realized, I guess, how much copy and paste of his actual life we get to see in his filmography.
All of them.
Honestly, yeah. It's now thinking about it, it makes sense of why they're always very focused in on emotional moments, but in almost kind of a passive way. Mm-hmm. You know?
So Wes, as an overall director, is of course known for multiple things. Symmetry. Mm-hmm. Pastel color palettes. Mm-hmm. Unique pastiche soundtracks.
Okay.
I'd say are kind of the touchstones. Beyond that, of course, dry humor. Mm-hmm. And almost flat affect at times in performance.
No, yeah.
And ultimately, very quick dialogue, if you really boil it down.
It's an extravagant universe that people are bored in.
And no one really monologues.
No, yeah, because it's also very slice of life. Everything is very much a...
Say what you need.
Yeah, or, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, but that's who you are as a character, and...
Or also maybe just be as blunt as you need to be. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you ever come looking for me? Because I hated my father and I never wanted to be one.
Well, that's, I guess, what I mean, by people being bored with the world that they're in, Yeah. Look at all of the color, and yet I'm still going to find things to nitpick about you, my life, this, I'm wearing a giant, stupid clown bow, and yet I can still manage to sit here and find a serious moment.
The pageantry of the world around you doesn't ultimately matter. What's mattering is here.
Exactly.
But also, we're going to let sort of everything speak for itself on a weird level. Our actions, even our subtext, is going to be on a certain level very laid bare. Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a very interesting approach, and very Wes, honestly, with the way that he was literally brought up with a mother named Texas. That's not a real thing.
An archaeologist. What's the career of the mother in... Okay, so he goes and he does Bottle Rocket, which is one story. Then he does Rushmore, about a kid in a prep school. he follows up Rushmore with The Royal Tenenbaums, which is about 3 adult children who have all been affected in their own unique ways by the divorce of their parents, whose mother is an archaeologist.
I mean,
and the middle child is one that goes and, or the one that is the adopted child, who feels the most sort of out of place with the other ones, kind of like a middle child, is also the one that goes and writes plays.
I mean, but that's what happens in Rushmore.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you look at the core dynamic again of The Life Aquatic. It's fathers and sons. And then as he's gotten older, I think what's gotten interesting is he is now a father.
Mm-hmm. And it's this perspective of a parent, And
a different relationship between father and son has formed. You look at Isle of Dogs, which is a movie that he kind of did for his son. And it's about, more so than I think even Life Aquatic, it's about someone really sort of stepping up to the idea of fatherhood.
Oh, see, I was thinking about The French Dispatch.
Oh, okay.
With a very, openly loving father-son relationship.
Yes. Really different dynamics, but also father and son is at the core of...
But, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think that Wes has a way of looking at, human monotony.
Mm-hmm.
And finding little bits of happiness, of simple pleasures out of those things. And that's why, the world can be big, but the moments can be small.
Mm.
Is the fact that like you said, it doesn't matter what color the sky is. What matters is human interaction and these people connecting, even these very odd, flat, blasé people at times.
Yeah.
Can also still have, interesting things to add to the situation. And I think that's pretty fantastic, honestly, because at the end of the day, no one in a Wes Anderson movie, even if it's exactly himself or his family or whomever, they're all completely different.
Mm-hmm. And,
they go on unexpected journeys. And I think that is something that we can, is a normalizing force almost, I don't have to step up and achieve being, Captain America.
Yeah.
I can watch these people in this crazy world just be normal. And also, I think that's more relatable at a certain extent,
No, absolutely.
Nobody can fly.
Well, and they make bad decisions.
No, yeah.
They make good
They're
decisions. They are pig-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are idiots.
No, yeah, but I think that's the beauty of it. No one in a Wes Anderson movie is perfect 100% of the time.
No, and anyone that you might even consider, what's I think interesting is some of the people that you might consider the best of them are often sometimes the ones that don't make it out of the narrative at all in some instances, or go through, in some cases, the most difficult transition.
I think that's probably fair. But I mean, also, I don't know, I feel like whatever you're thinking about with those things is so specific to a character that I have no idea where you're possibly pulling from.
The first one is definitely Life Aquatic, Ned. I think Ned is probably
Which one is Ned?
The Owen Wilson character.
Oh, okay.
I think Ned is probably your most sort of pure character in that scenario.
No,
of that island of misfit toys.
I think that's fair. Well, I guess I was, thinking maybe even in line with our movie right here, Rushmore. Mm-hmm. With this kid that we literally watch
get humbled.
go down this spiraling rabbit hole into chaos because he might actually be an axe murderer. The TBD on that one.
Well, I guess with that, we should just go ahead and jump into it.
I mean, we've been talking about Wes, so
Fair enough.
Feels like a perfect transition.
So Rushmore was released in 1998. It is rated R. It's an hour and 33 minutes. It is written and directed by Wes Anderson, but also co-written by Owen Wilson. Mm-hmm. The premise is a teenager at Rushmore Academy falls for a much older teacher and befriends a middle-aged industrialist. Later, he finds out that his love interest and his friend are having an affair, which prompts him to begin a vendetta. It stars Jason Schwartzman as Max Fisher, Bill Murray as Herman Bloom, Olivia Williams as Rosemary Cross, Seymour Cassell as Bert Fisher, and Brian Cox as Dr. Nelson Guggenheim. And without further ado, I'll toss it over to you. This was not your first Wes film at all. We've, of course, reviewed The Life Aquatic. You watched that one with me. And you had seen some before, but this was your first Rushmore.
Yes. I mean, you're just negating that entire, long talk that we just had about Wes Anderson. If I had never seen any of his things, I wouldn't have been a very good chat.
No, fair. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I'm not offended. Yes, no, this was not my first Wes Anderson movie. This was my first time with Rushmore. Honestly, I think that I just kind of missed out on Wes Anderson's earlier things and just have just grabbed and taken things as I can, usually newer or later at the end kind of things. So for me, this was a kind of fun to see just a really bare bones movie with Wes, because like you talked about earlier, he's known for these pastel palettes and all of the symmetry and all of these things that we have come accustomed to, and this movie has almost none of those things, but it's still very much a Wes movie.
It has, if I may, it has all of his framing.
Well, I think that that's fair, but I don't think that the average person is going to see that. That's
fair.
You can talk framing all day long. It's because you know what you're talking about. Somebody's like, there's a person's face on the screen, and that's it. The whole thing is a frame because it's in my TV.
It is framed. That is correct.
That's right. We
Idiot.
did it. That's right.
This guy.
No, yeah. But I think that this movie almost has it's really normal feeling. The world, it feels almost like this movie is older than it is, in a sort. It kind of reminds me of going in and watching the original Halloween movie or something like that. Very much this is a real place. This is exactly what it looks like, and nothing more to see here, kind of thing. And I think that that's where it finds its almost humdrum aesthetic from. I think that he does, I'm not really familiar with the whole prep school thing. Why even have kids if you're just going to ship them off for a year to go become an adult? I just think that that's really weird. But this one isn't like a boarding school. This one is just
a prep school.
Yeah, this is just a high school that requires children to wear suits and ties. Gosh, man, they really prepared kids for that, and then we all did work from home and said, what if sweatpants was the uniform now? Gosh, it's almost like they could have been kids. Pity. Wasted opportunities. I really enjoyed this movie. I was not expecting this downward spiral into chaos. And also I love the description of his teacher being a much older woman, and it makes her sound like she's somebody's grandmother.
No, and I guess in context of Max,
well, yeah,
she is much older, but she's not an old it's not Harold and Maude.
She's probably maybe 30.
35 at the latest.
I really don't think so. I really think that she is supposed to be your first year of teaching.
Yeah.
10 years out of high school, boom, this kid thinks that he can chat with me because we're just shy of each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And middle-aged for Bill Murray is always correct because, like, God...
He's been middle-aged since Ghostbusters.
He has been. I mean, honestly, it's been the receding hairline. It was doomed from the beginning. I think that's fair, but I just think it's funny that they, like, label her as a much older woman, like... She is 47 and has 3 children, and this is her naughty affair with a student.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you guys talking about? She's a young woman. He's a child. Let's get this in perspective. Paragraph. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved when this movie did get extravagant, which is with the plays. The plays are ridiculous, and I absolutely love it. I loved this, like, let's maximalist how you do a play so hard that you're like, this isn't practical at all. But all of these people are sitting in the audience like, oh, this child is a genius. And I would honestly be thinking the same thing too. Like, that thing is better than Disney. You know?
Blew Frozen out of the water.
No, honestly, screw the Avatar people. This child has a helicopter that is making actual noise and is a prop, guys. Like, we're not gonna... You're kidding me. Like, it's so unrealistic.
He had a flamethrower on set.
He had a flamethrower on set. He literally has some child messing with it. And they're all so serious with it, and it just makes it absolutely perfect, honestly. I think that this movie also, like, finds a really nice level of, like, this isn't what people sound like at all. Like, everybody sounds like a really adult person. You know what I mean?
And I think Wes, in general, has that real, unreal dialogue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's almost what people say and sound like, or maybe it's what people wish they said and sounded like.
It's like a heightened thing, you know. It's without all of the hesitation. This is exactly what I want to tell you, you know. Boom.
But also he also has moments where people, and I think that this is also the gift of his writing at a certain level, him and Roman Coppola, and Wilson, all of his writing partners, I suppose. He
worked with Coppola?
Roman Coppola.
Oh.
He used to be... Pause. He is tight overall with the Coppola family, partially because Jason Schwartzman is a Coppola.
What?
Jason Schwartzman is related to Talia Shire. Talia Shire is a Coppola.
I'm never going to be in Hollywood ever. I'm not related to anybody important.
His mom is Michael's sister in The Godfather 1 through 3.
The one that gets beat up?
Yeah. That's Jason Schwartzman's mom.
I just...
But also, if I'm not mistaken, Wes used to be, and I don't want to be mistaken here, but I could be, romantically entangled with Sophia.
Copy. And I just want to reiterate my statement from earlier. I'm never going to be able to do anything in Hollywood because I'm not related to anybody famous. Because also, I guess, you know, Hollywood must be like a theater where everybody's just fucking everybody.
That's correct.
So, you know...
I mean, theoretically, once upon a time, there could have been a dinner table that included Francis Ford, Wes, Sophia, Jason Schwartzman, and Nick Cage.
Oh my god.
Because he is also a Coppola. So... and Owen Wilson, maybe. Because he could have just tagged along.
Well, it's a small world, after all.
That sounds like an ideal blunt rotation, though.
I really don't know. I really don't know. I feel like they're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah, and then Nick Cage is going to talk.
Oh. No, I did forget that Nick Cage was here.
And then Nick Cage is going to talk. And honestly,
no, they're all going to be
Schwartzman-
patting themselves on the back about how good their version of their thing that's basically the level of The Godfather is, and they're all going to go, "Oh yes,
And
your
then-
Godfather was darling."
And then I'm going to look at Jason Schwartzman and be like, I love Bored to Death.
Jesus.
His HBO show. I adore this
I've
movie.
Never heard of.
I think Jason Schwartzman does a great job of, because he is a young man. He's an 18-year-old, if I'm not mistaken, around this time.
He looks like exactly the same.
And it's so hard to believably sound like a smart kid. You know what I mean? It's so hard to find what he finds in Max Fisher, this weird, otherworldly confidence. And I think that that's definitely what you're reading is like this American Psycho vibe. You know?
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, also, I'm sorry. When did this movie come out?
98.
98? Yeah, it was prime time for, like, this child having a lot of moments where I was like, you're a sexual deviant.
You're a predator.
You are. He's just constantly throwing himself at the teacher, and like the moment when he keeps trying to kiss her and she's literally telling him no, I was like, I'm gonna die.
But no, like Max Fisher, the character, essentially he travels on a certain level. This is the bleakest character arc. It ends well. But for a while, for the character, this is one of the bleakest character arcs, I think, of any Wes Anderson character.
This character learns more of a lesson than Dear Evan Hansen does in Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah. This kid really gets his teeth knocked in.
No, yeah. What happens to Evan? He doesn't get to date that girl anymore and people are mad at him? Oh, boo-hoo.
But no, like, this kid, he gets thrown out of his first school. He gets thrown out of public school. He ends up essentially stuck, not sure where he's going to go next.
No, yeah, I think this character is, like, also, like, really interesting because of the fact that, he's got a lot of airs about him, you know what I mean, for, like, a kid who doesn't have any of that. You know, and I think that's honestly his whole lesson is just learning to, like, accept who he is and, like, that being okay instead of, like, trying to pretend like his dad's a doctor. So,
Matt Stoller Seitz, who is a film critic that has been writing on Anderson since Bottle Rocket the Short, has talked about Wes and this movie a lot. And one of the things that he essentially says about this movie, and I'm definitely inclined to agree, is that the Max Fisher character is a jerk hero in the same mold as Bill Murray and Tom Cruise heroes of the 70s and 80s.
Oh, I think that's totally fair, but that's also why that moment totally works when he's, like, pretending to be Tom Cruise.
And that's also why it works that then the Bill Murray character is like, I like this kid. And he's kind of the jerk hero grown up. Listen to that speech that he gives at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Where he's like, fuck him. You know?
And that kid is like, yes! Absolutely poetic.
It's that same sort of rebel energy that is beating at the heart of both of these guys. Mm-hmm. Of this rebel without a cause figure. And I think that that's truly where some of that jerk spirit meets that teen angst of this person who is also way smarter than he should be at this age. Mm-hmm. Getting him into all of the trouble in the world that gives him the most humbling lesson possible.
No, yeah.
It's really smart, and I think that also plays well with his antics. And with Bill Murray and him getting into this game of one-upsmanship. And the joke that Brian Cox makes. You know, you're on he essentially makes a "you're on a double secret probation" joke when he first calls Max into the office, and that's an Animal House reference, which is all about jerk heroes. The entire cast of Animal House is jerk heroes.
Isn't that book that they make you read in high school?
No, that's Animal Farm.
Well, I tried.
Animal House.
Oh, that's the frat movie. That's the frat movie with that guy.
John Belushi.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And Tom Hulse, Amadeus himself.
No, yeah, that movie was definitely not something that my parents watched.
No, but that's a whole bunch of jerk heroes.
Yeah, but that's the reason.
And so I think that they really capture that here, and also how, like, that does eventually get out of hand.
Yeah,
that
but
behavior gets out of hand.
I think that it's great, though. I think that the world actually has real stakes, because if this was actually one of those jerk hero movies, everybody would just be like, oh, it's just their beta instincts or whatever, they're, oh, pat, it's just who they are. Boys will be boys.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the movie, the song that plays is Faces, Ooh La La, and the chorus is I wish I knew what I knew now. And Max is truly, by the time that we get to that point in the song, even though it's only been a year of school for him, has truly gone on a journey and has learned more.
I mean, has it been a year? We've only done 4 acts of months. It's like December, right? Or does the in part go all the way to the end of the year?
I think we transfer into technically a new year. We don't necessarily travel with him through a full calendar year, but we do arrive at a new year with him.
Copy. Okay.
And so he's gone through, though, in that time, more education than he has ever gone through school. And he has truly learned something that he probably should have learned a long time ago.
No, yeah. I mean, honestly, I guess I'm going to sound like somebody's parent. If he put as much fucking work into his actual schoolwork and then into making that aquarium for some woman who literally wasn't interested, he would be president of the United States at 15. Yeah. Because the bar is really low.
But, I think that that's also what makes it so compelling is, again, going back to what does make Wes such a good storyteller is it's so human that at times it becomes so messy that it's also very compelling, to continue to watch these people be so human.
No, yeah, no, I think that that's totally fair. It's something that he does really well in spite of his aesthetic.
Because I think that people read it as a coldness on a visual level, but he's really just sort of plainly presenting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, when what they tell you in acting classes, on stage you're playing it for the back row, but for film you're not. And I think that he minimizes it even more than that, where it's like, it's a lot of these subtle moments that are on the faces, on the way that they say the lines, on, these very small, intricate things, and you have to pay attention to all of the details or else you're going to miss something kind of meticulousness to it, because it's not going to give you a show. Mm-hmm. The show is, if you want the spectacle, that's really nice. Look at all the cool stuff.
It's almost sleight of hand.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that that's completely accurate. Because that's also when emotions do get big, that they actually mean something. Because if you're constantly, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Mm. If everything is huge and in your face all of the time, nothing is actually going to land. Yeah.
Melodrama can get tiresome.
Exactly, because how much further can it possibly go? Whereas here, the moment that you see this kid break and basically rebuild himself, like it's an actual moment of being like, oh, holy crap, like the stakes are real, we don't realize how far it's gonna go until we cross that line, and I think that I also get cemented with the fact that the stakes are real, he doesn't just get to, slap on the wrist, go back to school where he wants to go. He doesn't get what he wants. He has to learn this lesson.
Yeah. No, I think that that's all totally fair. So if you had to rate Rushmore Out of 5, what would you give it?
I'm gonna give Rushmore a 4. I think that it's a really good movie. I really like a lot of the flair with it. And I think that Jason Schwartzman is doing a phenomenal job. I just don't know if it's like my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
No, that's fair. I mean, they can't all be the favorite.
No, yeah, and like I can see where the director, the writer I enjoy
is coming from.
Exactly. But I just, he's still learning here what's going on.
And this also just isn't a story that hits you.
Yeah, like I went to a public arts school, and lived a middle class life. Like I understand that this kid is, lower class, but also his dad never seems too plussed about the fact that, like, he is literally failing out of every class as long as his son's having a good time. Mm-hmm. That's not realistic. That's not realistic in the slightest. There's being a good father and then realizing that you're setting your son up for, like, disaster at a certain extent, Like, why even have him go to this school where he's basically treating it as, like, summer camp?
Yeah. Actually, as a random aside, I'll give it a 4 as well. One of the things that I do truly find the most difficult things for me about Max definitely is his treatment of his father. And I think that sometimes, I understand why he does it as a character point, but also at times it really bums me out. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. And I mean, I think that a lot of it is because of his situation of being at this school and, like, having to put on,
airs.
Yeah. Or else, he won't, quote unquote, fit in. Mm-hmm. But, like, again.
But even just in personal interactions, up until you get toward, again, where he has truly been humbled.
Well, yeah,
he can be so cold with his father.
Because at the end of the day, he looks at his father as somebody who is given up. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to be like that. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have time for it.
Mm-hmm. But I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. Certainly, again, not one of my favorites, but I think it's brilliant. And it's such a wonderful debut film. And I could also understand someone saying that it is their favorite. Because I'm sure that someone definitely out there... And I certainly relate on a certain level to Max Fisher, but I think that for some people there's an even deeper relation to it than I have.
No, I think that that's fair. I mean, I don't personally relate to Max. If anything, I guess I relate to Mrs. Cross, this woman who's just too nice and goes too far, totally by accident, and it's like, crap, let me reel myself out of this crappy situation.
I guess we should move on to our next film.
See.
Another one that's kind of a adults or children sounding like adults at times picture.
Oh God, I mean even more so.
With Rian Johnson's Brick.
Who knew it was possible?
It came out in 2005. It is written and directed by Rian Johnson. The premise is a teenage loner pushes his way into the underworld of a high school crime ring to investigate the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend. It stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Brendan, Luke Haas as the Pin, Emily DeRaven as Emily, Megan Good as Kara, and Nora Zehetner as Laura. And I guess I'll go ahead and take this one away. So I caught this one for the first time in the summer of 2010. I had gone to a summer film program and I met a guy named Nathan, and he told me about this movie Brick, and he thought that I would dig it, and he lent me his DVD, and I took it home with me that summer, and I watched it, and I loved it, and I watched it a lot that summer until the point that he eventually sent me a text being like, "Are you sending that movie back to me?"
Wow.
And
I've never watched something that hard unless it had Disney slapped on it.
I really dug this movie. I really latched onto it. I thought that Rian Johnson had done something a lot of fun, and then like this was also right around the same time of like The Brothers Bloom was about to come out. And then I went and I saw that one, and then of course Looper came out. And so for me, he's really been, ever since I first saw Brick, he's been a all hits, no misses director. And I hadn't seen it in a while. You know, I watched it a lot, and I watched it all throughout even college a few times. But it's been a long time since I've seen Brick. And going back to it, I definitely still loved it. I think it's still really, really great. I think that the Brendan character, for me, left me colder than he used to. But I ultimately still think that this is a really, really fun, clever, campy, funny, if you let it be, movie.
I think that that's totally fair. And I also think that this movie is really dark and twisted and sad and kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I totally agree with, you know, it having humor, but I don't know. I think that the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character, I don't know, what's his name? Nate? I know that that's not right.
Brendan.
Gosh, terrible name. Yes, Brendan. I think that the more that we learn about these people and this underbelly, and the more he starts to just like, he keeps turning me off of him.
The uglier everyone gets.
Well, I mean, honestly, but like at the end of the day, you know, one, I understand that it's a noir set in a high school. I totally get that. I think that this movie goes almost entirely too far in that direction, pretty quickly in order to keep its motif. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's totally fine, and I enjoy it to an extent, but it's for me starts to hit a point of being completely unrealistic. Mm-hmm. That it starts to take me out of the experience, because at the end of the day, like, where are the adults?
Yeah.
Where are any of the adults?
Where are Brendan's parents?
Where are Brendan's parents? Why is the Pin's mom so chill about the fact that she's literally like a drug mule house, and he's not like keeping this whole Godfather thing under wraps? Like, unless she is stupid, like how is he getting away with any of this? How are you literally have, you know, Channing Tatum's sad cousin as a bodyguard in this thing. You know, you got step up Channing Tatum in this movie. And, and like, don't get me wrong. Like, I guess I feel like I'm being maybe a little overcritical of this movie.
No, you're fine.
But I guess, like, what happened to this place? Like, in LA, within this white neighborhood where everybody is very well off. Like, is this really what it gets like when you're so rich that you get bored that you start, you know, hawking cocaine?
Well, I mean, I guess I can address a few points that you did make just recently. I have been to a home where the main breadwinner of the home was a drug dealer. And it was very known that the main breadwinner of the home was a drug dealer. People were coming and going. It was mom. It was sister. It was child. It was sister's new boyfriend, you know. And you would, you know, be in there sometimes, and it would be dinner time. And you'd walk past people having dinner, you know, on the way to... you know, where the deal was about to happen. And it was as normal as any other day. Furthermore, as far as the lifestyles of the rich and the famous, I lived in a neighborhood It was a wealthy suburb of McKinney, Texas, and there was a neighbor, not of ours directly. He was a few neighborhoods over, but you could walk to his place because all the neighborhoods were connected by like a park with a walkway. Mm-hmm. And he ended up going and getting house arrest because he was selling alcohol and I think drugs to 18-year-olds in exchange for sexual favors.
Jesus Christ.
And then we also, of course, just down the block, and these were my direct literal neighbors, just down the block, of course, were the swingers that ended up getting arrested in a whole thing. And then my sister's high school was one of the sort of high schools that was listed by, I think, Vanity Fair at one point as one of the meanest schools in America, and there was a whole expose about how the principal had used her power as a principal to make sure that her daughter, the cheerleader, and all of her friends made it through high school unscathed. So, honestly, like what rich people do when bored.
Well, then that makes perfect sense because just look at the education system now as a whole. You know, long as you show up or breathe or have a name on a piece of paper, that's good enough for us. You know, diplomas for everyone.
But those address some of your very specific points.
No, yeah. And I mean, I guess like somewhere this is a real thing that's happening and like it's just as serious as this and the stakes are life and death.
As this, I suppose.
But I still have to wonder, you know, I guess
it is still exaggerated.
Yes, I mean, I understand that it is exaggerated, mm-hmm. but I guess for me, it is exaggerated so far beyond the point of realistic.
Without ever getting to a point of being as campy as Raimi or as meticulous as Anderson.
Exactly. You know, because at the end, other than it being staged as a noir, everything else is completely like as it is. You know,
it's not as funny as The Big Lebowski, but the premise almost suggests that it should be. But it's almost as pitch black as No Country for Old Men at parts.
Yeah. Like it's not as I guess as sexy as what is that movie called? It's not called Heat.
Body Heat?
Body Heat, that's what it is. It's not as sexy as Body Heat.
Or Wild Things.
Yeah.
Another high school set one. Where, again, it got campier.
Exactly. You know, whereas you could go down this journey, I guess, of it being a serious topic without it feeling like, you know, these kids are, like, actually living, like, these terrible lives.
And I guess,
you know,
on a certain level, maybe since I've watched it a few times, this most recent time that I saw it, after having not seen it for a really long time, I was almost like, this shit is bordering Grease. At times of, like, did they mean to be funny here? There were a few times where I was like, I'm not sure this is supposed to be funny.
And I guess maybe, like, it would be funnier for me on, like, another watch
mm-hmm.
or a few. But, like, you know, just watching it as, like, this is my very first time, very sterile watch of this movie. I was just like, my God. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that I understand why children have, you know, suicidal tendencies. Like, if I went to this fucking school...
And you had to deal with this kind of shit, yeah.
Yeah, where literally a gang violence thing happens in somebody's just neighborhood home because they're allowing their children to do drug deals in the basement. I just... Where are the parents? Where are the parents?
And, you know, it's almost operating on, to that degree, it's almost operating on horror film level rules where parents are either absent
or they're stupid.
Or they're ineffectual.
Yes.
Every authority figure is either absent or ineffectual.
Exactly. To the point where we even get the black cop principal being like,
You're a loose cannon cop on the edge,
no,
Brendan.
Literally. Oh my, I'm sorry. That guy was the funniest part of the movie for me.
And that's where, like, there are literally parts of this movie where I'm like, it's funny.
No, that guy is hysterical.
It's supposed to be funny.
But, like, my God, maybe this is terrible to say. I hated the Emily character. I hate his, like, infatuation with this girl who is clearly, like, just fucked up and doesn't know what she wants, and he is constantly, like, this weird...
I can help you figure it out.
Yeah, but, like, also I can only help you if we're dating, and if I get to see you all the time, and why don't you want me to kiss you, you know, kind of energy, and you're like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
This is toxic. This is gross. And, like, all of his flashbacks, I was like, I don't even understand why you guys were dating in the first place. Like, you were over here both being like, I love you, but I can't, Brendan, you know? But also, we totally watched him literally be like, no, you're not making these decisions. And she was like, yes, I am. And he basically was like, I won't allow it. And that's weird.
No, I get that.
That's weird, and that's supposed to be, like, our lead dude who's figuring this thing out. You know, and not my pigs, not my farm, I guess. You know?
No, and I think that, like, I think Brick, out of all of his films, is definitely my least favorite.
I think that that's fair.
You know, without even getting into rating it, I think that Looper is a better movie. I think that Brothers Bloom is a better movie. I think that The Last Jedi is a better movie. I think Knives Out is a better movie.
Yes.
So I think that he has grown so immensely. And whereas I think that you can almost see Wes Anderson almost polished most of the way by Rushmore.
No, honestly.
And obviously, you know, Rushmore is his second film. And this is a true, like, first film. But with that said, I think that you still see Ryan-isms, this lean toward crime, this blending of noir and other genres, and other tones and textures. You know, his time travel noir with Looper. His brother-based crime story, of course, with Brothers Bloom. The focus on the criminal underworld in The Last Jedi. You know, I think that he's really inspired by this, but again, he also grew up, you know, watching, since this was when he was making his first movie, he's probably in his mid to late 20s by this point, early 30s maybe. So he was watching So he was watching, the noir boom of the 80s and 90s, and he was super influenced by, I'm sure, the Coens and some of these movies that we talked about, like Body Heat and that sort of thing. Tarantino's, you know, big wave in the 90s. And so I think that you definitely see that in everything that he does, but I think that he also takes it to a very different place than all of them. And I think that he does manage to find, even if his visual sensibility is maybe a little bit less specific, I think that you can always tell a Ryan movie in the way that it brilliantly meshes some of those themes and ideas.
No, I mean, like, again, I think that this movie is a really clean product. I think that you know, the influences are right there.
It's a work in progress film, though.
No, yeah, I mean, like, if you've never seen a noir movie before and you started watching this movie, you'd be like,
do I like this genre?
What is this? Is this what they call noir? Is that what everybody's been spoofing? This is almost so hard into being a noir that it could be considered a spoof.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost taking it so seriously that it's like, it can't possibly be this serious, guys.
And that's kind of where I live with, like, some of it has to be funny. Some of it is deathly serious. But some of it is so serious it's funny.
For sure. Yeah, I just...
But the Brendan character is and grows more of a hurdle.
With every time that you see him, he's just kind of like the worst dude. Like, I don't understand why Brain hangs out with him. He treats him like crap. Mm-hmm. And he is his only friend, and he's just constantly just like...
He's a very dour person. Yeah,
he just uses him for, like, to the point where, like, he has to, like, remind himself to, like, be nice to Brain, almost. Like, it's... It's like, oh yeah, you know.
You are trying your hardest, Brain. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I almost forgot, you know. You're just furniture around me at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're such a staple, I forget that you feel and have these emotions. I'm so disconnected. I'm so focused on this girl who doesn't want me.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm obsessed with her. I don't like the toxic masculinity in it.
So if you had to rate Brick out of 5.
It's really conflicted. I'm
gonna go 3.
Ooh, okay, I feel better now. I was also gonna go with 3.
Okay.
Okay, I feel better now. I thought I was
I was thinking maybe 3.5, but I'll go with the 3.
I think that everybody's doing a phenomenal job. I think that the acting is really good in this movie. I think that
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh my god, his freaking name. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Say that 5 times fast. I think that he's doing a phenomenal job. I really enjoy seeing young Joseph in this. I mean, he's not too young, but he's still high school appropriate visual age.
We're around, 10 Things I Hate About You, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
This is after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're still close proximity.
No, yeah, and he's got that boyish face. You know, it's kind of hard to pinpoint him in a place. But I think that he's taking, everybody's having to do a lot of heavy stuff, and they're doing a really good job with it. I think, yeah, for me, I think that it is just, it's an uncomfortable place for me. It's so far that it's just like, I don't know how I would react if somebody told me that this was how their childhood was.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I think my answer would be, you need a really good therapist. They pay them some really good money because they are going to need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to work through a lot of this with your weird, God, what was his relationship with the black girl?
Former lover.
When? Before he was
when he was a
with...
freshman.
Okay, so before
she has always preyed on guys a grade like freshman boys. So I'm guessing that they started when she was probably like a junior.
How old is she supposed to be? What grade is he supposed to be in?
They're seniors, I think, now.
Okay, so if they're seniors together, then...
I think he's maybe a junior.
Okay.
I think she is a senior. I think he is a junior.
Okay. It's not very specific. Nobody ever goes to class.
Mm-hmm.
I repeat, no one is ever actually in
She
class.
is a grade above him. He is a grade below her. He is a junior.
Okay. Copy. And then he met Emily and became so obsessed that he couldn't bear to love another person.
Mm-hmm.
God, and then they do the whole baby thing. Ah, jeez. It's a 3.
Moving on. As far as what we've been watching, beyond these films, we did Into the Woods, the Broadway version.
Yes, original Broadway cast from the 80s.
Which was a first for me. You grew up on that one.
Yeah, I've watched this movie too many times.
But I really enjoyed it. I had seen, of course, the Disney film. I saw that one in theaters. And then you and I watched it together as well. Mm-hmm. And I definitely see where a lot of the things that I liked about the movie were improved. In the original version, things were brought down, I suppose, for the Disney version. I think that I think it's really smart. I think that Sondheim is very impeccably talented. I think that he's very intelligent. The structure of the show is really interesting. I think that they needed to lean more into it and less away from it.
In the new version?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that that's totally fair, honestly. I think that they shy away from the gravity of what all of this means, because it's almost like watching a Wes Anderson film. where it's all of this fantasy, and at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people who are trying to figure out the best thing to do for them, but realizing that their actions have impacted other people, and then what does that mean? You know, it's all of these, do I work together? Do I stand alone? It's all of these human choices that are being made. And I think that the new version really leans into the idea that it's a musical.
Yeah. And then the other thing that we watched was Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, because we watched Elvis recently, and so we decided to go and do another Baz film.
Blast.
Impeccable film.
So good. This was my first time watching it, like, fully all the way through. And much better in context, I will say. Pandora for years has been trying to, like, sneak songs out of context, and I'm like, don't you dare do this to me, because it doesn't make any sense out of context. Since I did not grow up with this film. But no, fantastic. Ewan singing his heart out, doing a phenomenal job. Didn't know that Ewan could sing.
Yeah, so I wanted to watch this movie actually on a certain level back when it first came out in theaters, but I was too young at the time. But I remember taking my sister with Mom and dropping Madeline off to meet her friends to go and watch Moulin Rouge. Like, I vividly remember this memory.
I really don't know how old you are in this story, and I'm going to tell you, after knowing you and being married to you, that you were not too young. You were fine.
And so I really wanted to see it very, very much so. And once I finally got to, I did love it. And it's always been one that I've gone back to and always have enjoyed it. It's not one that I play endlessly, but it is definitely a very comfortable movie for me. I know it so well. It's so vivid. It's so colorful. I love these characters. I love the characterizations. It's one of my favorite Nicole Kidman performances. Ewan is so much better than he should be as a singer.
Like I said, who knew Ewan could sing?
Honestly, I think he ultimately does a better job truly as a vocalist than Johnny does in Sweeney. I think that Johnny does a great job performance-wise, and I think he is a very good singer in that movie. However, I think that Ewan, just as an overall vocalist, is much more of a powerhouse performer.
Well, yeah, I think that that's totally fair. Anybody who walks away from Sweeney Todd and says, wow, Johnny Depp can really sing is missing the entire point of that
performance and character.
Yeah.
It's almost a Lin-Manuel character. It's not the point.
Yeah, like, it's theater. You should be able to look through it, look past it, you know? It's about the acting, and he is acting the shit out of it, regardless of his personal issues.
And so I think that Moulin Rouge is just a lovely movie, and I really enjoy Baz Luhrmann. There's only one Baz Luhrmann movie I truly don't like, and it's his Gatsby movie. I think it's trash. But the rest of his filmography I really enjoy. Moulin Rouge, great. Australia, great. Elvis, great. Romeo and Juliet, one of my favorite versions of that show.
Well, yeah, because it's the only one that's different. Every other version of Romeo and Juliet is copy-paste, West Side Story, copy-paste, copy-paste. It's Victorian kids in love. Thank goodness. But if I guess I have to choose one of those versions, then it's definitely the 60s version with the kid who looks like Zac Efron.
Fair enough. Beyond that, we've been watching Boardwalk Empire Season 1.
Yes. Quite enjoying Boardwalk Empire.
We've been watching Harley Quinn.
Love it.
But that's pretty much it. As far as recent media news, I don't have a lot for you. The new Saints Row just came out. So essentially, we've been talking a little bit about the shakeup, of course, happening at HBO Discovery. And apparently it has pretty much been confirmed that the reason that so much has been removed is largely due to HBO's unwillingness, not even HBO, Discovery's unwillingness to pay certain royalties. They don't want to continue to pay certain union fees, ASCAP, which is the record rights guild that you pay for music rights and that sort of thing. They want to get some tax breaks on certain things, and it was all decided on low viewership, whatever that metric means. There are now some rumors going around. I saw this on Twitter today that Discovery Brass has contemplated a funeral showing of Batgirl, where they are literally going to do one screening of the movie and destroy it.
Wow.
So
Discovery.
That one, I think, for me is one of the lowest blows. It's not even just removing it, but literally going, we're going to screen it one time and then going to purge and scrub from the face of the earth.
Yeah, like,
you may as well burn it.
You may as well just not do this at all. They've already made a shit pie that they've sat in and rubbed all over their entire body, and now they're just gonna marinate in it. They've now gotten themselves a nice big chili bowl of shit, and they've tucked themselves into it, and they're just gonna wallow in it because, like, do you really think that this is the thing that's gonna get people to watch more of your stuff, Discovery? Like,
or want to work with you moving forward.
Yeah, if you're just going to go, you know what, all of that work, all of that money, all of that time, it means nothing to me.
Well, and you would have thought on a certain level that the very hyper-negative reaction that Netflix has gotten recently about some of its decisions would have been a little bit of a foreboding lesson.
Well, no, because these people are exactly the same.
Yeah, they're hard-nosed.
Exactly. That's why they keep all doing the exact same thing with their platforms as they go, yeah, it happened to them, but that's not me.
Fair enough. That's just about all that we have for you, though, for today's episode. Be sure to come back next month, starting next week, when we jump into... Right, it makes it seem like
we're going like a whole hiatus.
When we jump into Hispanic heritage. Next month will also, of course, mark 1 year of us hosting the show.
Happy 1 year, guys! A year ago at this point, I was supposed to not be sitting here. So, it was supposed to be Nick, remember?
Yeah.
Nick was supposed to be your co-host, and I was free. So, yay!
Well, I have loved having you as my co-host. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you guys, as always, for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week. Bye!